ever stopped to truly marvel at something we all do every single day without even a second thought? I'm talking about language. How do we as humans learn to speak, to understand each other, to share our deepest thoughts, our most, fleeting ideas? It seems so natural, almost automatic, kind of like breathing, yet it's profoundly complex. We all go through this process from our very first cries to sophisticated conversations, but the intricate journey itself, we often just take it for granted. Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're plunging headfirst into the fascinating, really intricate world of language acquisition and development. Our mission today really is to take a collection of insightful sources. We're talking developmental psychology research, linguistic studies, and pull out the most important nuggets, those surprising facts, and maybe especially those aha moments. We want to give you a true shortcut, a way to get really well informed on this absolutely essential part of being human. So get ready. We're going to uncover not just how we learn words, but how we piece together the entire fabric of communication itself, how it shapes our minds, our connections.
That's absolutely right. And this isn't just about, memorizing vocabulary lists or ticking off milestones like baby's first word. It's about understanding this complex, really beautiful interplay between our biological predispositions, or what we're essentially born with, and the incredibly rich environmental influences that shape us. It shapes one of our most defining human traits. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how deeply rooted it is, how universal in some ways, and yet how subtly nuanced and individually tailored it becomes for every single one of us. So we'll meticulously explore the fundamental building blocks, the nuts and bolts of language. We'll delve into the major theories trying to explain its origin, its development. There's quite a debate there. And then we'll trace the remarkable, sometimes surprising stages children pass through as they transform into fluent, effective communicators.
Okay, so let's start right at the foundation.
Yeah.
When we talk about language, what is it really? It's clearly more than just sounds, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's much more fundamental than just speech. When experts define language, they typically describe it as a sophisticated system of rules. Rules that let people communicate ideas, feelings, wants, needs, the whole spectrum.
And it's crucial, like you said, to emphasize its importance, even for people who are deaf or non-speaking. It highlights that the essence of language goes way beyond just audible sound or spoken words, right?
Exactly. It's about a structured, symbolic system for conveying meaning. That could be through spoken words, yes, but also through sign language, gestures, written text. At its heart, it's a tool for connection. It's profoundly human.
And what's incredible, just amazing, is that communication starts long before the first, coherent word pops out. Think of a newborn. Their primary way of communicating, really, their only way at birth is crying. It's basic, it's universal, it's their way to signal stress, displeasure, pain, hunger, thirst, discomfort. You name it. It's their first language, in a way. Raw, fundamental. It tells you something's wrong or I need something.
Precisely. And from that primal cry, there's this fascinating progression. It's not just random noise. After that initial crying phase, infants typically transition into what we call cooing.
Oh, those soft little sounds.
Yeah, picture a baby uttering those soft, repetitive vowel sounds like or ah. These aren't really intentional words yet, more like innate, almost automatic reactions, often sounds of pleasure or contentment. But what's remarkable, even at this incredibly early stage, is how clear the communication between a caregiver and child can become just through these simple vowel sounds. It's like a little pre-linguistic dance.
A dance, I like that.
Then around the 6th month or so, we hit a really significant milestone.
Babbling.
Right, the ma ba 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 phase.
Exactly. That's when you start hearing those familiar consonant-vowel repetitions. Initially, at this stage, what's interesting is that children babble basic speech sounds found in all languages across the globe. It's a universal phenomenon. It strongly suggests there's a deep, innate drive to explore making sounds with our mouths.
Okay, so it's built in somehow. Well, here's where it gets really intriguing. Compelling evidence from linguistic research strongly suggests that language capacity seems biologically inborn. And one of the most powerful pieces of evidence is the astonishing fact that even infants who are deaf babble.
Wow, really? Even if they can't hear?
Yes, they babble with their hands if they're exposed to sign language or make vocal sounds if not. It powerfully suggests there's a fundamental pre-wired component, an inherent capacity within us for this kind of pattern vocal or motor exploration, regardless of auditory input. That's a profound aha moment, pointing to something foundational in the human brain.
That is truly fascinating. Okay, so they start universal. Then what?
Then something even more specific starts to happen. By about the 8th month, the child's attention begins to shift, to narrow down. They start focusing specifically on the speech sounds of their native tongue, the language or languages they hear around them most often.
So they start tuning in.
Exactly. They become attuned to the unique rhythm, the intonation patterns, the specific phones, those distinct sounds of their home language. And this isn't just a subtle change, it can be quite pronounced. Studies have observed, for instance, that the babbling patterns of a German child start to sound different from an American or French child.
Also,
The intonation changes. The babbling literally starts to sound like the native language. An American baby's babbling sounds American, a German baby's sounds German, a French baby's sounds French.
that's incredible. Even before real words.
Even before real words. This early differentiation raises a really important question. What does this tell us about that interaction between our innate predispositions and the specific environmental input? It suggests a powerful interplay. An inborn capacity isn't just switched on, it's actively tuned and shaped by the surrounding linguistic soundscape, even before a single meaningful word is spoken.
That's amazing. So it's clearly not just about random sounds or even single words. Language is this sophisticated system, all these interconnected parts working together. You called it a symphony earlier. Each instrument, each section playing a vital role. So what are these fundamental components, these crucial instruments we need to master to truly know a language?
That's a great way to think about it, a symphony. And knowing a language really does mean mastering each of these essential components and then, seamlessly combining them. It creates this flexible, powerful, communicative system. Experts in developmental psychology usually break it down into 4 key areas or building blocks that we all implicitly acquire.
Okay, 4 building blocks. Let's hear them.
First up, we have phonology. Think of phonology as the sound system of a language.
The sounds themselves.
Exactly. It guides our pronunciation. It's concerned with how individual speech sounds, we call them phonemes, and syllables are sequenced and combined to convey meaning. You can imagine phonemes like tiny, distinct Lego bricks of sound. Snap them together in the right way, and you form intelligible words.
Like B versus P.
Precisely. The B sound in bat and the P sound in pat are distinct phonemes in English. Change one, and you change the meaning entirely. Phonology is about that underlying sound structure, how sounds can and must go together to make sense in a particular language.
Okay, phonology, the sound system. What's next?
Next is semantics. This is probably the most intuitive part for many people. It's the meaning-making aspect of language.
So what words actually mean?
Right. Semantics involves our vocabulary, the words we know, and how underlying concepts get expressed in specific words and word combinations. It focuses on the relationship between the signifiers like the word dog and what they stand for, the actual furry, four-legged creature. Semantics is all about connecting those sounds or written symbols to their actual meaning. It lets us understand and convey ideas.
Got it. Sounds and meaning. What else?
Then we get into grammar. Grammar covers the crucial rules of language structure, how we put it all together. And grammar actually consists of 2 main intertwined parts, syntax and morphology.
Okay, break those down for us. Syntax first.
Sure, syntax refers to the rules for arranging words into sentences. It's like the blueprint for sentence construction. It guides how we form statements, determining the specific order or pattern of words to make a sentence grammatically correct and understandable.
Like word order.
Exactly. In English, we usually say, the cat sat on the mat, not mat, the on cat sat. Syntax ensures our sentences convey the intended relationships between the words.
Makes sense. And morphology. That sounds a bit more technical.
It does, but it's fundamental. Morphology deals with grammatical markers. These are those subtle but really powerful elements that indicate things like number.
Like singular versus plural. Cat versus cats.
Precisely. Or tense, past, present, future. Walk versus walked. Case, person, gender, active or passive voice. The dog chased the ball versus the ball was chased by the dog. It includes small but mighty words like articles, a, the, preposition in and under, pronouns he, she, they, and conjunctions, and but, or. Morphology is also concerned with how we understand complex words, like how adding ed to walk signals past tense.
So syntax is sentence structure, morphology is word structure, and those little grammatical bits.
You got it. And combined, morphology and syntax form the complete grammatical rules of a language. They let us build meaningful, structured statements, not just strings of words.
Okay, that's 3. What's the 4th piece?
The final piece, often overlooked but absolutely vital, is pragmatics. This is the communicative and social side of language.
How we actually use language in context.
Exactly. Pragmatics is about how language is used effectively in social situations. It's not just knowing the words and grammar, it's knowing the unspoken rules of conversation. Things like learning to take turns, knowing how to stay on topic, stating your meaning clearly so others understand you.
So conversational etiquette, almost.
Yes, and more. It also involves acquiring what we call sociolinguistic knowledge. Society dictates how language should be spoken in different situations. Think about politeness. To be successful communicators, kids need to learn interactional rituals like verbal greetings, hi, appropriate leave takings, bye, understanding when it's okay to interrupt, or how to ask for things politely. So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, mastering all four components, phonology, semantics, grammar, syntax and morphology, and pragmatics, is what allows for truly flexible, nuanced, and effective communication. It lets us navigate complex social interactions.
That's a fantastic framework. Sounds, meaning, structure, and social use. But here's where it gets really interesting, right? Where the big psychological debates kick off. Is learning language this natural, innate thing, something we're just wired for? Or are we primarily taught how to speak by the people around us through imitation, correction, endless practice?
The million-dollar question.
Psychologists have argued about this for ages. It often boils down to nature versus nurture, or sometimes framed as empiricism versus nativism. Let's unpack these major theories.
Right. So on one side, we have the behaviorist perspective. This falls squarely into the empiricist or nurture camp. A major figure here was B.F. Skinner. Back in 1957, he proposed behaviorism as the main driver of language development. The central idea is quite straightforward. Language is a learned behavior, just like any other skill.
And imitation. Just copying.
Skinner believed imitation was huge. Children in this view are like linguistic sponges, soaking up and mimicking sounds, words, even whole phrases they hear from adults. Albert Bandura, another psychologist, agreed. He observed that children learn how to construct sentences largely through direct imitation of the adults around them. It suggests a more passive learning process, driven by external input and rewards.
Okay, that sounds plausible on the surface.
Yeah.
But does it explain everything?
Well, here's a major sticking point for behaviorism, and it's a real aha moment for many. Have you ever heard a young child proudly say something like, I go to the park, or she comed home?
Oh, yeah. All the time. My nephew used to say foots instead of feet.
Exactly. Now think about it. Do adults say goed or comed or foots?
No, of course not. We say went, came, feet.
Right. So the child isn't imitating these forms. Parents don't model them. In fact, the child is actively generating them.
So where do they come from?
This isn't just a random mistake. It's powerful evidence. It shows the child's brain isn't just passively mimicking. It's actively identifying patterns like add ed to make a verb past tense, and then over-applying that rule even to irregular verbs where it doesn't fit.
Ah, so they're figuring out a rule and using it everywhere.
Precisely. This phenomenon is called over-regularization. It reveals the incredibly active, rule-generating nature of the developing mind. It suggests something far more complex than simple imitation is going on. They're like little linguists testing hypotheses.
That really challenges the pure imitation idea.
It does. However, we can't completely dismiss behaviorism. Reinforcement does seem to play a role. Research confirms that responding positively to children's vocalizations actually increases how much they vocalize. Adult responsiveness definitely supports language learning.
So interacting with them helps.
Absolutely. Behaviorists argue that adults should engage in intensive language tutoring, modeling correct forms, reinforcing attempts. And there's practical value here. Skinner's principles have proven valuable for speech and language therapists working with children who have serious language delays or disorders. Targeted reinforcement can be a powerful tool.
So it has its applications, even if it's not the whole story.
Exactly. It raises that question about the practical application of these theories. Reinforcement can definitely help shape language, especially when there are challenges, even if it doesn't explain the underlying creative spark.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm still stuck on that child saying, I goed. If it's not just imitation and reward, what else is going on? This brings us neatly to the other side of the debate, the nativist perspective. The leading figure here, also emerging around 1957, is the incredibly influential American linguist and cognitive scientist Noam Chomsky. He fundamentally challenged the behaviorist view.
A giant in the field.
Absolutely. Chomsky's core belief was pretty radical at the time. Language development is largely innate. He argued children are born with an inherent knowledge of the underlying rules of language. Humans are biologically programmed to acquire language.
Like it's part of our biological endowment.
Exactly. To explain this innate capacity, Chomsky proposed his famous concept, the language acquisition device, or LAD. He conceived the LAD as, well, maybe not a specific spot in the brain, but a complex system or module dedicated to language. It makes learning language a natural, almost unavoidable event for humans.
How does it work, according to Chomsky?
Think of it like a specialized, biologically based program that just needs to be triggered by hearing language, any language in the environment. Once it receives that verbal input, the LAD automatically starts processing it, extracting the underlying grammatical rules of that specific language.
So it's preloaded with the basics of grammar.
That's the idea behind universal grammar. Chomsky suggested the LAD contains a kind of blueprint, a set of fundamental grammatical principles common to all human languages. It's like a core operating system that allows children to make sense of the structure, the deep rules of whatever language they happen to be exposed to. He believed these basic rules are universal across all languages.
And is the evidence for that?
A key piece of evidence Chomsky pointed to is how children worldwide learn language in remarkably similar ways. They pass through similar stages at roughly the same ages, regardless of their culture or the specific language they're learning.
Babbling, 1 word, 2 words.
Exactly. That suggests an internal maturational timetable, not just random learning based on environment. This perspective sees language acquisition as fundamentally biologically based, similar to how physical or motor skills develop. Just like babies naturally learn to sit, crawl, and walk in a predictable sequence around the same ages, Chomsky proposed language unfolds in fixed stages. Babbling around 6 months, the 1-word stage around 1 year, the 2-word stage around 18-20 months. This predictability points towards an innate program.
And did he connect this to specific brain areas?
Yes. His theory drew support from discoveries about specialized brain regions for language. The most famous are Broca's area and Wernicke's area.
Yes, I've heard of those.
Broca's area, usually in the left frontal lobe, is primarily involved in language production. Damage there leads to problems speaking fluently and grammatically, even though comprehension might be relatively intact.
Yeah.
They struggle to get the words out.
And Wernicke's.
Wernicke's area, in the left temporal lobe, is crucial for language comprehension or interpretation. Damage there can result in fluent grammatical speech, but it's often filled with nonsense words or incorrect word choices. They can speak, but it doesn't make much sense, and they struggle to understand others.
So specific areas for specific language jobs.
Right. For Chomsky, the existence of these specialized areas and the specific deficits caused by damage strongly implied that language functions are hardwired into the brain, supporting the idea of an innate biological foundation. So, to sum up nativism, it emphasizes children's incredible, almost innate ability to figure out and internalize complex language systems with relatively little explicit teaching. They essentially invent the grammar for themselves based on the input they receive.
Okay, so we have behaviorism. It's all learned through reinforcement and imitation, very nurture-focused. Then nativism, it's largely innate, pre-programmed, very nature-focused, thanks to Chomsky's LAD and universal grammar.
Exactly. Two opposing poles.
So where does that leave us? Is there a middle ground? Indeed, there is. This brings us to the interactionist perspective. This view aims for a synthesis, a blend of nature and nurture. Interactionists argue for a balanced approach. They emphasize the crucial interaction between our innate biological systems, like the brain structures Chomsky highlighted, and the rich environmental input we receive, like the reinforcement Skinner talked about.
So both biology and social experience matter.
Critically, interactionists believe language development is both biological and social. Neither factor is sufficient on its own. It's a dynamic interplay. This perspective suggests language acquisition is influenced by multiple interacting factors. Our physical maturation, the specific linguistic input we get, our developing cognitive abilities like thinking and problem solving, and crucially, our social experiences.
Who are the key thinkers here?
Two major figures often associated with this perspective are Lev Vygotsky and Jerome Bruner. Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, for instance, really stressed the vital importance of social interaction in all learning, including language. Interactionists draw heavily on his idea of collaborative learning, the notion that meaningful conversations and interactions with more knowledgeable people, parents, older siblings, teachers, actively help children develop both cognitively and linguistically.
So talking with kids helps them learn language.
Profoundly. Interactionists argue that language learning isn't just driven by internal mechanisms or external rewards alone. It's deeply influenced by a child's innate desire to communicate, to connect, to share their thoughts and feelings with others. We're born with this powerful brain that matures over time, allowing new understandings, and we're intrinsically motivated to share those understandings.
The social drive is key.
Absolutely. This view compellingly states that our native language is primarily acquired within a social setting. Therefore, experience must play a critical role. Think about that unusual case mentioned in some research about a boy named Robert. He didn't speak typical human language, but, reportedly influenced by the sounds of monkeys he heard, made monkey-like vocalizations. It's an extreme example, but it highlights how potent the influence of the social soundscape can be.
Wow.
Interactionists really value this social aspect. They suggest parents can significantly facilitate language development simply by engaging meaningfully with their children, reading to them, talking about the stories, asking open-ended questions, responding thoughtfully to their attempts to communicate these rich, responsive interactions, foster language growth far more effectively than just isolated drills.
Okay, so Vygotsky emphasizes the social collaboration. What about Bruner?
Jerome Bruner, another prominent cognitive psychologist, also integrated nativist ideas but strongly emphasized the social support system. He believed language development combines those innate biological features, the readiness Chomsky talked about, with crucial social encouragement and scaffolding from the environment. For Bruner, this social encouragement provides the necessary support structure as the child develops linguistically. Language development, he argued, is inextricably tied to social behavior and interaction.
How does that work early on, before words?
Bruner famously pointed out that adults and infants can have complex conversations long before the infant speaks. Think about games like peekaboo, the back and forth of babbling, nonverbal communication like pointing, gesturing, following gaze. These interactions build the fundamental turn-taking structure and shared attention needed for language even before verbal ability emerges.
Laying the groundwork.
Exactly. From this perspective, language develops primarily as a powerful tool for children. A tool to solve problems, express needs, understand their world more effectively. And they learn how to use this tool by practicing and modeling the language they see and hear being used around them within these meaningful social contexts.
So practice in a social setting.
Right. And Bruner coined a term for this environmental support system. In 1975, he argued that the child's active involvement in these rich social interactions provides them with a language acquisition support system, or LAS. He saw the LAS as the crucial environmental complement to Chomsky's innate language acquisition device, LAD. It's the idea that language acquisition is a dynamic dance between what's inside the child, the LAD, and the supportive interactions happening around them, the LAS.
Nature needs nurture support.
Precisely. So the key takeaway from the interactionist perspective is this. Most children don't need to be explicitly taught language, like, say, math in school, but they absolutely need abundant opportunities to develop it through meaningful social engagement. Connecting this to the bigger picture, it suggests language isn't just downloaded from an innate device, nor is it simply stamped in by reinforcement. It's actively co-constructed.
Co-constructed.
Yes, built together through that dynamic, reciprocal interplay between our biology and our vibrant social world. It's really a collaborative masterpiece.
Okay, that provides a much more balanced view. So let's unpack this incredible journey, this co-constructed path, from that first cry, just a basic signal, all the way to the complex sentences of a 5-year-old. Language development follows this remarkable, fairly predictable path. Our deep dive into the research breaks it down into distinct stages. It reveals these incredible cognitive and social leaps kids make. It really is miraculous when you watch it happen.
It truly is. And the journey is typically broken down into 4 main stages, each building logically and wonderfully on the one before it. The first is the pre-linguistic development, sometimes called the pre-verbal stage. This covers roughly birth to about 1 year old. During this critical period, babies are pre-verbal. They aren't using words meaningfully yet, but they are incredibly responsive to language. This stage is all about acquiring the foundational ability for language before they even speak their first proper word.
So, getting ready to talk.
Exactly. Around just 1 month old, infants already show an amazing receptivity to language. They seem to have an inbuilt capacity for what's called categorical speech perception.
What's that?
It means their tiny brains are already sorting the continuous stream of sound they hear into distinct language categories. They can differentiate between subtle sound differences like pa and ba that are meaningful in language. They're not just hearing noise, they're starting to parse it into the phonemes relevant to human speech even before they can make those sounds themselves.
Amazing. And communication is happening how?
Primarily through crying, as we discussed, but also smiling, and that cooing phase, those soft vowel sounds, often signaling contentment.
Right.
By about 6 months, they're not just distinguishing speech sounds generally, but they start tuning into the specific sound patterns of their native language. They can tell it apart from other languages. They get interested in sounds, toys that make noise, and crucially, they begin uttering phonemes, those basic speech sounds.
Babbling starts around then, too.
Yes, leading into that babbling phase. Then from about 7 to 12 months, we often see the emergence of the first words. These are typically directed towards the primary caregiver, often the mother. This connects to what's called child-directed speech, or motherese, the way caregivers instinctively simplify their speech, raise their pitch, and exaggerate intonation. It helps the baby tune in.
It helps them learn.
Absolutely. While a baby's first word attempts might be unclear, their development depends significantly on positive, responsive interaction with parents and siblings. By 8 months, they're really focusing on the phones common to their native language, effectively filtering out sounds that aren't used in the language they hear daily. And a key point here. At this stage, comprehension is usually way ahead of production. They understand much more than they can say.
They get it, even if they can't say it yet.
Exactly. And they often use what's called a holophrase, using 1 or 2 words to stand for a whole sentence's worth of meaning, like milk, clearly meaning I want milk, or up, meaning pick me up.
Right, that single word carries a lot of weight.
It does. Which leads us into the second major stage. Phonologic development, also known as the holophrase stage or one-word stage. This typically happens from about 1 to 2 years old. Now, the child voluntarily combines words and sounds, actively trying to imitate the speech they hear around them.
More intentional now.
Yes, their cognitive abilities are rapidly developing. They're paying close attention to the reference of speech, linking specific words and sounds to objects, actions, people. Their spoken vocabulary is still limited, maybe just a handful of words they can control consistently, like mama, dada, ball, cup.
And this is where those interesting errors start.
Yes, we often see overextension. A child might use the word dog for every 4-legged animal they see: cats, cows, sheep, all dog.
Because 4-legged furry thing is their current category for dog.
Exactly. Or conversely, underextension. They might use the word cup only for their specific blue sippy cup, not generalizing it to other cups. These aren't really errors in thinking, but reflections of their developing categories and vocabulary. Parents can help by stressing simple, correct words.
How's their pronunciation at this stage?
From around 12 to 15 months, it's often a delightful mix. Partly right, partly wrong. Mistakes are common, but they improve with adult correction and modeling. Consonant vowels sounds like mama are often easier than complex clusters. And crucially, infants are actively attaching meaning to words. They use a fantastic process called fast mapping.
Fast mapping.
Yeah, it's like their brain has this incredible ability to acquire and retain a new word after hearing it used only once or twice in context. They just sort of grab it and store it. It helps their vocabulary explode later on.
Wow, like a quick download feature for words.
Kind of, which brings us rapidly to the third stage. Semantic development, also known as the telegraphic stage or 2-word stage. This is roughly from age 2 to about 3 or 4. At this pivotal point, children start understanding language on a much deeper level. They comprehend and produce a wider range of words. They shift from single holophrases to stringing words together into simple sentences.
The 2-word phase.
Exactly. They can follow more complex directions now, like, get your teddy bear in your blanket. But expressing their own complex thoughts fully in speech might still be a struggle. A huge development here is the beginning of real grammar acquisition. As they listen and reflect, they start cracking the code of their native tongue's rules.
Putting words together in the right order.
Yes, they start with 2-word combinations. And interestingly, they often get the basic syntax right. They'll say, daddy eat, not usually eat daddy. It shows an early grasp of subject-verb order. Soon after, they move to 3 words. Daddy eat food, mama drink milk.
Building complexity.
Right. As their grammar gets more sophisticated, they start adding modifiers like adjectives, suffixes like plural ines, and those little but important function words articles, the a, prepositions, in, pronouns, me, auxiliary verbs, is, it, o, though these might still be used inconsistently compared to the main content words.
What kinds of words do they focus on?
Researchers like Piaget noted they often refer to important people, mama, papa, and movable concrete objects, ball, car, dolly. Their vocabulary keeps expanding rapidly through that fast mapping process.
And the sentences sound basic.
Yes, that's why it's called the telegraphic stage. Sentences are short, often follow a rigid word order, and consist mainly of essential content words, nouns, verbs. They leave out the smaller function words, like a telegram would to save space or cost. Want juice, baby sleep.
But you can still understand them.
Usually, yes, because they supplement their telegraphic speech brilliantly with gestures, facial expressions, intonation. A child pointing and saying, mine, with a determined look, gets the message across very clearly. They also become much more aware of the social side of communication, taking turns in conversation. Some even start picking up on politeness rules, maybe adding please sometimes. They tend to use active words, I kick ball, more than passive ones. Ball kicked.
Fascinating. So that takes us up to about age 4. What's the final stage in this early development?
The fourth stage is the preschool, or ordered sentence stage, typically from around 4 to 5 years old. This is really a fine-tuning period. All those pieces we talked about start clicking together more consistently. Children learn to use language much more effectively and acquire proper, more complex grammatical rules.
So their sentences start sounding more grown up.
Remarkably so. They start using sentences that are surprisingly complex and adult-like. It's amazing how far they come in just a few years. They consistently use articles, verbs are conjugated more reliably, and they master grammatical markers like the past tense ed or the progressive ing to add precise meaning.
But they still make those cute mistakes, right? Like good.
Yes, and this is another one of those fantastic aha moments. They often overgeneralize these new grammatical rules. They learn the rule ed for past tense, and they apply it everywhere, even to irregular verbs. So you get, I bringed it, she goed, he run fast, my foot's hurt.
Instead of brought, went, ran, feet.
Exactly. And again, this isn't a sign of a problem. It's magnificent evidence of their brains actively working, applying the rules they've figured out. It shows they're not just copying, they're generating language based on internalized rules.
That makes so much sense now. What else happens in this stage?
Transformational grammar really develops. They get much better at forming different sentence types. They can reliably generate negative statements, no, I don't want broccoli, and ask all sorts of questions using how, why, who, when, where.
They become little interrogators.
Don't they just? They also start understanding and expressing relational concepts, big, small, tall, short, here, there, before, after, using adjectives and comparative language more accurately. Their conversational skills take a huge leap forward. They learn how to communicate more effectively to achieve their goals. They get better at adjusting their message depending on who they're talking to, simplifying for your sibling perhaps, or using more detail with an adult.
Becoming socially savvy communicators.
Yes. And by the end of the stage, around age 5 or so, referential communication skills develop significantly. This means they can generate clear verbal messages so others understand what they're referring to. And, importantly, they can also recognize when a message they've received from someone else is unclear or ambiguous. And they might actually ask for clarification. What do you mean? Or which one? That's a truly remarkable leap in communicative competence.
Wow. We've covered an incredible amount of ground today. From that first universal cry, just a basic signal, all the way to the amazingly complex, almost adult-like sentences of a 5-year-old. We've seen how language seems to be both this innate gift, something wired into our biology, maybe through something like Chomsky's LAD, and also a deeply learned skill, profoundly shaped by our environment, our interactions, and driven, as the interactionists argue, by that fundamental human need to connect.
It truly is a miracle unfolding every day.
So, thinking back over everything, what stands out most to you about this incredible journey? Is it the idea of that innate LAD?
That's certainly compelling.
Or maybe how absolutely critical those early social interactions are. That back and forth, the LAS supporting the LAD.
That interactionist perspective feels very powerful, doesn't it? It resonates with what we observe.
For me, I think it's the sheer dynamism of it. The child's mind actively constructing, testing hypotheses, making those errors like goad that tell us so much. They're like tiny linguistic scientists.
That's a great way to put it. And this whole deep dive, thinking about how language acquisition works, really raises a profound question that goes beyond just learning words. If language is so deeply intertwined with our earliest social interactions, with the very architecture of our brains, as all these theories suggest in different ways,
Hmm.
what does that imply about the fundamental nature of human connection itself, and about our capacity for learning throughout our entire lives?
Interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. If these early foundations, built through interaction, shaped by innate capacities, influence not just how we speak, but maybe also how we think, how we perceive the world, how we form concepts, it suggests that the very act of communicating right from the start is intrinsically linked to how we build our understanding of reality, how we learn, how we adapt, how we shape our own unique place within the world. It connects language not just to speaking, but to thinking and being.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Language isn't just a tool we use, it's part of what makes us who we are, shaping how we see everything. We really hope this deep dive has given you a richer understanding, a deeper appreciation for this everyday miracle of language and how it unfolds. Keep exploring, keep questioning those things we take for granted, and join us next time for another deep dive into a topic that truly matters.